the concept was interdisciplinary sciences. So it was more involved in combining different sciences towards research. And after my graduation, I did, I took a 1-year break when I did an internship at Max Planck University. It was a 3-month internship. And after that, I took 9 months break, and then I started my PhD in August of 2016 at the University of Arizona.
All right, that sounds absolutely wonderful. So my second question is, what are the job opportunities one can pursue after doing the integrated MSc degree that you've done?
That's a good question. So it depends on which field you're looking for and what kind of job you're looking for. Like, I truly believe that you can do, like, you can pursue whatever job you want, except like maybe going into medical or doctorate or some doctor or something. But like, for example, if you want to go in like physics or chemistry, you can go into research and development in various companies. Or if you're like doing biology and combining it with physics or chemistry, there's like many things of like biophysics and biochemistry and pharmaceutical companies where you can join for research and development again. And then if you're doing a PhD and then you're pursuing further, you can be a professor, you can be a staff scientist, and so on. Specifically, since I'm studying in astronomy, you can be a professor, you can be a staff scientist, you can be an astronomer. So the difference between all these three is that the amount of time you spend research differs from one to another. So that's the case, yeah. And also, if you want to switch fields, like after doing research for some time, so research mostly, like my research mostly involves coding in Python. Like you learn a lot of computer stuff as you're doing your own research. So after pursuing research for some time, you can switch. If you want to switch, you can always switch to being a data scientist or a computer science person, like a software engineer.
Okay, all right, that is great. What did you enjoy the most when you were pursuing your degree in Vishwa Bharati?
I think the degree in Vishwa Bharati was a new format, and it allowed me the opportunity to actually do research as an undergrad student. So as part of the research, I was allowed to go to different research institutes across the country and actually work with real scientists. This was fun because, yeah, like studying in college and going to classes is fine, but actually getting hands-on experience as a scientist and actually seeing how scientists work is amazing. So I got the opportunity to work at TIFR and then PRL and IIA. So that was like, I think, the most wonderful part of being like studying at Vishwa Bharati. But I would also say that it is also the first time when you step out of home, and I think it's a way to explore yourself. So I think that's one other thing which was fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how do you think STEM will progress in the coming years?
So that is actually a very important question. So STEM always has like a bright future. STEM, like it's not just a bright future. STEM is always important in our society. So I would like to answer this question in like a two-step thing. The first thing is that you need to be aware of the subjects. Like people need to be aware of science and technology and engineering and mathematics. Not just the famous ones like the top levels of engineering, but also like there are far reaches of engineering which people are not aware of. I think that's one step, and I'm happy that you are doing this STEM4Girls where you're introducing people to a lot of subjects. That is the that is important. And the second point is considering STEM as an innovation, as a way into innovation, which is what people need to think about, because mostly what we think is doing something and getting a job. Like STEM should not be thought of as like a way of getting a job. Like I agree that you need a job and everything, but you should also think of start thinking of STEM as a way of innovation. So I think if starting to think about this as getting to learn new things, or helping to discover or invent new things, is an amazing way that STEM can be taken in the future.
Absolutely. I completely agree with what you just said. All right. So the next question is that we have someone like you who can tell us how you know, developed an interest and how you pursued astrophysics, that now you are so accomplished in it. But at your age, when you were in the 12th grade or when you were even in the 11th grade, how did you figure out that the integrated physical sciences degree that you took up was the right thing to do?
So I always had an interest in sciences from childhood. It was mostly developed because of, so uh, there used to be this show in Doordarshan when I was a kid, which used to come every Sunday about scientists. Like basically they used to teach kids about how to do science stuff, like basically hands-on science stuff, which I always used to love. And then when I was in 6th and 7th grade, I was in Ahmedabad, and there was this institution called as Zeal, where it was a young scientist institution, and my parents like helped me join that. And where basically even that institution was basically about inspiring research into young people, and they made us do like experiments, and it was like thinking about science in a different way other than just like being a subject in the school. So
Of course.
that was very helpful in developing my interest into sciences. So I like, because of all that, I always wanted to be a scientist, to become a scientist. But I had not decided on a subject at that point. But so it was like basically uh, astronomy is mind blowing. Like I think everyone will agree that astronomy is amazing. Even like
Exactly.
even just for knowing, you don't
Right.
have to like be a researcher in it. It's just like astronomy is it's like it pulls into the curiosity of a human mind. So that was initially what pulled me, but then I found out that we know only 4% of the universe, and the rest of the 96% is dark matter and dark energy, which we have no idea about. And
Right.
that is like, for me, it is mind blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, imagine like we have 2000 years of human scientific exploration, and we know just 4% of the universe. For me as a child, it was like mind blowing. That was what pulled me into astronomy. And yeah, so after 12th,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to do physics. At that point, my father and my mother, they helped me research different places to join in physics. So when I was doing 12th, it was mostly about engineering. I think it still is at some point. So
Yes.
I wanted to do physics. So my parents helped me explore the options, and they found out this NEST exam, which was new at that time. It was, I think, only a second. When I was writing the like after when I was writing the entrance exams, it was the second year of NEST, I think. And I gave the exam and I got selected, and yeah, and then I moved to Vishwabharati and so on. And
All
as for
right.
again into astronomy, it helped me do the different projects at different research institutes.
Absolutely. So as we've discussed before, that you mentioned that there are a lot of job opportunities available after doing the integrated MSc degree that you did, but you are obviously blown away by how astronomy and astrophysics is. But how did you take that decision that after doing your graduation, you wanted to pursue a PhD in astronomy and astrophysics?
So as I said, I always wanted to be a scientist. So doing
Right.
a PhD just seemed to be the next step of doing that. So I also think that it's kind of like depends on your personality also, like what kind of career you are choosing.
Uh-huh.
I am more like an adventurous type of person. So for me, it's like exploring, I like exploring a lot. So I'm not sure of what the future holds in the long run, but at the moment, like I know that I want to be a scientist, and doing a PhD is just the next step of the journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so this will be my last question. So for all the people that are watching this live, you guys can ask your questions on the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I will recognize you after ma'am has answered this last question. So my last question is, any final piece of advice you would like to give us budding girls in STEM?
Yeah, so I would like to start by saying that basically everyone learns from their own experiences. So everyone
Mhm.
gains their own advice for themselves mostly, but I still would like to like tell a few things. So the first one is what my parents have always taught me. It is do your duty. So like
Okay.
many people usually say that like if you do the work that you love, you won't ever regret it. That I don't think that is
Absolutely.
100% true, because even
Okay.
if you're doing something that you love, there will be days when you are like when you regret it. That is
Okay.
because it's like the work itself can be harder than you have ever expected, so that can lead to some stress, and you think about giving up. So there will always be some bad days, and that should not lead to you giving up. So if you remember that it is your duty to do it and you keep doing it, even if you're having a bad day, then it will definitely help, and it will show in the progress. That's the first thing. And the second one is that make support groups. So it is very important that you connect with people. Just go to someone and talk to them. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not saying that you should go and just talk to them about your personal stuff, and no, it's just like uh, create a system of people in different areas and different basically positions, so that you have someone to lean on whenever you go somewhere, and whenever you experience something, you are comfortable talking to people. So create support groups, and accept, like as I said, you will learn from your experiences. So accept the lessons that you learn from it. Like you might not want to learn at that point, but accept those lessons, like keep them in your mind, and just like use them in the future. You won't even know that you're using it, but it's important that it's important to accept. And
Okay.
the final thing is that take breaks. Like take breaks from your work. You don't need to like work 24/7. You should like
Mhm.
explore other things. You should watch movies. You should like explore uh, like novels, fiction, and anything else that you're interested in. Yeah.
Absolutely, that was very insightful. So, people that have questions, they can type them out in the chat box. But we also did, okay, someone has asked a question. Ma'am, how is Gauri has asked, how is the future for India in the field of space sector as well as the research opportunities?
I think that India, the space sector is growing a lot in India, and ISRO is always amazing. So you can
Absolutely.
always uh, join ISRO, but apart from ISRO, there are like several research institutes. for space, which
Mm-hmm.
is pretty good. Like Indian Institute of Astrophysics is very good. TIFR is good. PRL, IUCA, like IUCA has a international standing in our in the space research. So I think the future is amazing. And like if people, more and more people join for the sake of learning, then it will glow much brighter.
Absolutely. So on Wednesday, okay, she said thank you. So on Wednesday, we guys had done this question sticker on our page wherein we put your photograph and we asked our followers to ask you questions. So they've also asked a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
once the visitors here are done asking their live questions, I'll be asking some of those questions. Divyanshi
Yeah.
has asked, can you tell us about your PhD experience?
Yes, sure. So I started my PhD in August of 2016. I
Mm-hmm.
was a physics. As I said, I did my bachelor's and master's in physics. I had only like a research experience in astronomy, but entering into an actual astronomy department was really hard. So I had to take 2 years of coursework. The first year
Okay.
it was galaxies, cosmology, and instrumentation. That was the three courses, and it
Mm-hmm.
was it was really hard for me, mainly because when you enter a new field, you don't even it's like learning a new language because you don't know the word. So it was very hard for me to follow the what was going on in the class,
Mm-hmm.
especially there were like a lot of words related to galaxies that I was not aware of. So it took a long time for me to get used to the terminology and actually understand what was going on in the class. And the second year, the coursework was stars and ISM.
Okay.
So that was much better, but it was my first entry into theoretical part of astrophysics. So it had its own moments, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my coursework and they awarded me a master's in astronomy and astrophysics. And after
Wonderful.
that, so here, so in our department, we get to work on our research as soon as we arrive here. So I started working on dwarf galaxies when I arrived. It was going on great. I finished my project in my third year. I finished that paper. And then after that, I had to change my advisors because of some interdepartmental things. My advisor got promoted, so I had to change advisors. So that led to some stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to change, like, because I had to change my advisors, I also had to change my field.
Oh,
So it became a bit complicated, and now I'm starting my fifth year actually, and I
okay.
have worked on 3 different projects till now, which are completely unrelated to each other, and my thesis is going to be yet another project, which is completely different. So
Okay.
I think overall, I would say that experience is interesting.
All right. Okay. That
Yeah.
was a very unique experience. You know, all the guest speakers that come around, they obviously tell us about some of the hardships they faced and how they got out of it. But the fact that you've done so many different things over the course of around 4 years is absolutely amazing. So someone has asked, when did you decide your main topic of research would be dwarf galaxies?
Uh, so as I said, I have worked on different research institutes. So the first place that I worked was TIFR. At that point, I did not even select astronomy and astrophysics. I worked on X-ray detectors, which was kind of related to semiconductor devices. But
Okay.
then my second project, I worked at Aries Nainital, where I was working on variable stars. Uh, and it was okay. I was not that much interested into that. And then I worked at PRL Ahmedabad, and that was basically I did a small project on exoplanets. And I always was like never actually wanted to study planetary systems. It was just like an experience project for me. And then my final project was at IIA, which was my dissertation project, where I worked on sun. And after working 9 months on sun, I was like, yeah, I didn't want to do it anymore. But dwarf galaxies, I know that I wanted to do something like outside of the Milky Way, like extragalactic. I had not decided. For me, it was more about, I don't mind whatever topic I am doing, but the connection between your professor should be more like comfortable. That's what, for me, that was my main goal, because as when you're doing a PhD, it's a journey of like 5 to 8 years. So you should be comfortable with your professor. That's the most important thing. You should comfortable stating your opinions to your professor, and if you're not comfortable talking to your professor, then it's going to be a really hard time. So that was my main goal. So I was speaking to a few professors, and I was very comfortable with my professor, Beth Wellman. So she had this idea of exploring dwarf galaxies, and I loved it. Like when I was doing my first project, it was amazing, and dwarf galaxies are amazing. So I just got pulled into it. And when I had to change my advisors, it was the same thing. I was finding people with whom I was comfortable with, but I also wanted to keep working on dwarf galaxies. So now it's like I'm working with a professor whom I'm comfortable with, but they don't know much about dwarf galaxies, but they are helping me find my way wherever I want to go. So yeah, I think I just answered in a long way, but yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Of course, absolutely. So Divyanshi has asked, are you appointed projects or do you have to choose the topics?
Okay, so that also, so if PhD depends on where you are doing the where you are doing your PhD, and it also depends on the institute. So in the US, if you're doing your PhD, you are appointed by the university. So when you're being appointed by the university, you can work on any topic that you want. So I can choose any topic I want, and like I'm doing a side project as well. So you can choose whatever topic you want. You can explore any topic you want. You can write your own thesis. That's the way of my institution, and it's mostly the way in the US. But there are some cases, like some universities in Europe, if you're pursuing a PhD in Europe, you have to like write a thesis project beforehand, and it gets modified as you talk more with the professor, and you're appointed by the professor. So you have to work on the project that was decided at like in the beginning of when you're starting your PhD.
All right. Okay, makes sense. All right. So now I think I'll get into the other questions that were asked. So someone has asked.
So there is this question in chat that I want to answer. There was this question about
sure.
if we take up BTech computer science or IT, will it be helpful later to pursue astrophysics? So yes, you can. Like you can do any engineering, and you can continue to astrophysics, and computer science and IT are like they are like amazing to get into astrophysics. So you can do like a couple of online courses on astrophysics, and then apply for a master's or PhD outside India. You can give up, like you can use your computer science as like a way into getting into astronomy. So yeah, sorry I stopped you in the middle, but yeah, go ahead.
No, not at all. Thanks a lot for bringing that to my notice. I think I missed it. Someone after that has also asked if astronomy and astrophysics is the same.
So astronomy and astrophysics are the same. Yeah, initially, like in 1700s it used to be different. Like astronomy was just like observing galaxies and observing outer space. Making observations was considered as astronomy, and astrophysics was actually applying physics to study astronomy, was called as astrophysics. But at this moment, astronomy and astrophysics are the same. If you come into science community, if you say that you're an astronomer, they will understand that you're an astrophysicist. But they call it astronomy and astrophysics because people outside the academia don't think of astronomy as a subject. So calling yourself as an astrophysicist, like they understand that astrophysicist is actually being like this, like what we do. So
Okay, understood. So someone has asked, has studying astronomy changed how you see things in daily life? If so, how?
it does sometimes. Most of the times it doesn't, but mostly it does. Okay, that was. So one of the things is when I always give a talk, I always like talking about how vast the universe is, and one of the important things is that we are nothing compared to this vast universe. So it shows us, when I'm studying astronomy, it shows us how insignificant we are. So given that knowledge, it certainly affects some parts of my decision making and some parts of my thinking process, but I try not to I try not to influence that way too much as well. Like if you're like, it can influence you way too much, so it all depends on where you're giving it more power.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay, understood. Janya has asked, can you tell us how do we actually earn money through research, and is it difficult to manage expenses during masters and PhD if you don't have a secondary job?
So PhD is itself is a job. So you get paid when you're doing a PhD. So you don't have to do like another job to secondary job when you're actually doing a PhD. You can live fairly well on a PhD salary. And earning money through research it's not as good as like what you get maybe from more exotic jobs, but it you earn money that you can live comfortably with in. So you won't be able to live lavishly, but you will be able to live comfortably.
All right. Rajshri has asked, if you weren't doing astronomy, what other branch in physics would you have chosen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I was actually considering, when I was doing my undergrad, I was actually considering biophysics for a while. I was studying
Wow.
biology as part of my undergrad, and it really pulled me when I was studying about RNA, DNA, and how it affects the different like parts of our body. And I was considering biophysics for a while, and I was considering about going into cancer research, but then astronomy pulled me back.
All right. That is amazing. Okay. So now I think I'll get into the other questions. So, what is the scope of being an astrophysicist in India?
Astrophysicist in India. What was the initial part of your question?
That's it. That's just the question. What is the scope of being an astrophysicist in India?
Scope. Okay. Uh, you being an astrophysicist in India is actually great. You can do, like as I said, you have like a lot of places you can pursue research in. So one of the things is the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, IUCA, and TIFR. These are three like, and ARIES. These are like some amazing institutes where you can be an astrophysicist and you can excel. And you can also have like collaborations, like being in India, you can have collaborations outside of the country, and you can bring a lot of projects in. And we are already having a lot of large telescopes in India, like Devasthal. We have a telescope in Devasthal which is largest telescope in Asia. So we have an amazing telescope already. We have like GMRT like telescopes near Pune, which are like some of the amazing radio telescopes that in the world. So and we have a space telescope as well to study UV and infrared regimes. So yeah, we do have like a bright future of astrophysics in India.
All right, that is amazing. So, what advice would you give to amateur astronomers and aspiring astrophysicists?
Mm, I think pay attention to the vocabulary, pay attention to what is going on in the society as well, not just up in space. And I think mostly it is about trying to figure out what you want to do in research is the most important thing. You can do a lot, but you should not get lost in this vastness of everything. So paying attention to where you are and paying attention to what subject you want to do is important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Someone has asked, what unconventional career scopes do you have if you choose to take astrophysics?
I am not sure what they meant by unconventional things. I think doing astrophysics itself is pretty unconventional. But
Absolutely.
So this whole stream is very unconventional. You do a PhD and then you have to do a minimum of two postdoctorates after PhD to get like to even think about settling. So I think that itself is pretty unconventional.
Absolutely. Okay, someone on the chat has asked, can you suggest research opportunities for undergrad students?
Yes. So I think that is a very important question. So there is Aries has a spring school, spring or summer school, which you should check out. IIA has a summer school, which you guys should check out, which these two are amazing. And then Inspire offers summer internship opportunities for undergrads. You have to like send an application and then you can like they will give you money for doing a summer project, so which is pretty amazing. And the other thing is that if you want to do anything, like I would suggest you should just mail the person that whom you want to work with and then ask them for a project. I think that's what worked for me. You should just like look at the different research institutes and just mail a person saying that I'm interested in working with you and then I want to work with you. Like, yeah, I think you should like being an undergrad, you should also consider like just exploring the different fields and different research areas.
Absolutely, absolutely. Someone has asked, why did you decide to pursue your PhD outside India? Why not in India?
So it basically started. I think it is mostly because I was not studying for the entrance exams in India. So in India, you have to give an entrance exam called as NET, and I was not preparing for that one. And I was so one of the things, as I said, was I wanted to work on extragalactic astronomy, and I wanted
Right.
to I wanted to explore more. And I always had this idea that in some time in the future I will come back to India to work in India. So like one of the things is for me it is about exploring and learning about how different people work, and also like working outside of India will give me exposure to the different researchers, how different people work, and how different communities work, how other countries work, and it will basically help me grow. So that was the main idea of pursuing PhD outside of India.
Understood. So Divyanshi has asked, are there any main skills an astrophysicist should have?
It's mostly computer skills. You should learn how to code.
Oh,
Like you should
all
be
right.
like you should learn how to write long codes in Python or C or Fortran or like yeah, whatever you choose. Mostly I think now astrophysicists are using Python. So, like that's the work I do most of the days. I'm just typing away on my computer.
Oh, all right. So, from the other questions that were asked on that Instagram question sticker, what are some things to keep in mind when you choose a university for PhD in astrophysics?
So that is a good question. So when I started, I didn't know the answer to this. So it is a very important thing to consider, like when applying is if you are considering applying outside the US, you should consider whether it's a physics department or whether it's an astronomy department. So if it's a physics department, it will have considerably less resources in astronomy compared to being an astronomy department. That's one thing. And the second thing is that you should consider you should consider, like, since this is STEM for girls, I would say you should look at how many what percentage of the what fraction of the faculty are women, and you should look at what the age of those women are. Like I'm not being an ageist or anything, I'm just saying that it helps you to build a support group. When you have young faculty, they understand more about the current era of research and everything, and they provide you more support than older faculty. And the third thing to think about if you're applying outside India is what fraction of the community is international students. So again, it
Right.
comes back to the support system that you have. If you do not have many international students, it will be hard for you when you go outside the country, and because it's part of it is being alone, right? You're living alone and you're far away from your family, so you need a support system.
Absolutely. Someone in the chat box says, Shalini has asked, what is the journey after doing PhD?
Again, it depends on the field you're in. If you're in an engineering field, you can like do a PhD and then you can directly become a professor. But if you're in astronomy, then for astronomy is a very competitive field. So after doing PhD, if your main goal is becoming a professor, then you have to do at least like 2 postdocs. Each postdoc is 2 to 3 years. So after PhD, you do your first postdoc at a different university, and then you do a second postdoc at a different university, and then you try to apply for a assistant professor job. And after getting an assistant professor job, you wait for like a few years, and then there is something called as a tenureship. So you wait for it, and then once you get tenure, then you can move on to become a professor and so on. But if you don't want to become a professor, you can be a staff scientist. So after a postdoc, you can apply for staff scientist positions, and then yeah, it all depends on where you want to go and what opportunities you have at that time.
All right, makes sense. So Gauri has asked, ma'am, can you suggest any courses or projects we can do during this lockdown to explore astronomy or astrophysics?
Yes. So there is, I'm not sure whether you guys know or not, there is a website called as edx.org. So in
Yes,
that
yes.
website, there is an astronomy and astrophysics course, which is a 4 course thing. And it was actually like one of the first introductory course is taught by Brian Schmidt. Brian Schmidt was a Nobel laureate, and he himself taught the course, and the set of lectures are amazing. So you should definitely check out those 4 lectures. And as I said, that if you want to pursue astronomy, you should definitely look into going for coding. So you should develop your coding skills. You should learn how to do Python. You should learn how to do SQL, and then you should also learn how to basically work with, also try to like step into machine learning and so on.
Absolutely. So, okay, so she has said thank you. So now I'll ask you a question from the Instagram question tag. So, how does the actual study in astrophysics differ from what common people perceive it to be?
Yes. So basically, like, well, generally when people say that, people consider astrophysics, like studying astrophysics, as this they think that we are just like going there and finding answers to the universe and finding what dark matter means and finding the secrets of the universe. But that's
Right.
not how it works. Basically, when you work for 5 to 6 years, you
Mm-hmm.
you feel that you didn't actually make any progress, mostly because we are not exactly like doing research that will change lives or anything. It's not like whatever we are doing doesn't affect anybody at all. And even the research area, it's like it doesn't progress much. uh, Even after you do a lot of work, you just hope
Mm-hmm.
that it will significantly help in some way, but it's not always the case. Mostly, like, lot of researchers work on a single subject, and decades of working on the same thing changes the field a little bit. So that's how it works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, someone has asked, is astronomy an expensive field?
It depends on, so astronomy is an expensive field in case of, in the pursuit of basically building large telescopes. So like JWST is coming up, which is the James Webb Space Telescope. It's $1 billion project.
Yes.
And then there is the large telescope called as Vera Rubin telescope up in Chile, which is an 8-meter telescope, which is coming up. It's
Right,
a
right.
$1 billion project, and it's an expensive field, as in building all these telescopes. But since you are not the one who is spending it, you will be working on it. I think it doesn't like actually affect monetarily, like, to us, like, as a researcher.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, someone on the chat has asked, how can a software engineer enter an astrophysics field?
You definitely can. So you should have like a basic knowledge of astronomy, and then you can apply for a PhD, like PhD in astrophysics as a software engineer, like
Mm-hmm.
to a astronomy field. Or rather, you can just like come for masters, or like apply for a masters in as a software engineer, and then you can collaborate with an astronomer and basically start working in astronomy. So I think the first step that I would suggest is basically work with someone, get like mail to an astrophysicist or an astronomer somewhere, get some hands-on experience in astronomy, and then you can apply for a PhD.
Okay. Someone has asked, can one venture out into astrophysics if one has not taken science in school?
You don't need to, like, you can always learn later. You don't need to learn everything in school itself. Like,
Absolutely.
whatever you are not learning, you can learn in the future, or just learn before, like, you're doing your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like, if you're like, you did accounts or something like that, you can always come back to astronomy. And then basically it takes a little more effort and
Mm-hmm.
hard work on your part, but you can still do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, someone on the chat box has asked, do we need to know about which subject we want to specialize in from the very beginning, or can we decide as we go through MSc?
Yeah, you don't need to know what you want to do in the beginning itself. You can like explore stuff, you can read more, and you can decide as you go through MSc. Yeah, you don't need to decide in the beginning.
Absolutely. Okay, someone has asked, is pursuing astrophysics rewarding?
So what kind of rewarding are you looking for,
I
right?
think monetary. I think
So
in terms
monetary
of
rewarding is like, as I said, I can live, like I'm earning money and I am able to live uh, like comfortably. For me, the main thing is that uh, I think that self-dependence is the most important part of our life. So as long as you don't depend on anyone and you're like living comfortably, it is good. So for me, that is the main goal. So I live comfortably, I have some savings, and it's good for me. But on the other hand, I I'm happy with what I do, even though it gets really frustrating at sometimes, like it gets really stressful. But in the end, I'm happy with what I do, and that is, I think, what counts the most.
absolutely. Okay, someone has asked how many years will it take to, like, I think she's trying to ask what is the least amount of years you could pursue your PhD in?
Least amount is 3 years in Europe. 3 year Europe, you can finish your PhD in 3 years, and mostly it takes from 3 to 10 years. Sometimes it also takes 10 years to finish your PhD. Mine, I'm going to take 6 years to finish mine. So yeah, it depends on what project you're working on and what kind of professor you have as well.
Absolutely. Okay, Angelina has asked, are our 12th board marks very significant for our future?
Not that significant. I think it is significant up to a point. Like it is significant until you get your master's degree. Like, sorry, I mean it is significant until you get into a bachelor's degree under like your undergrad. But once you get into your undergrad degree, it doesn't matter that much anymore.
All right. Okay. Okay. So, okay, I'll ask a question from those from the question sticker. What undergraduate courses can we do in India to make a helpful background for choosing astrophysics as an MS later abroad?
So if you really want to do like if you're sure that you want to pursue astronomy, there are undergrad astronomy courses. I think in some places in India, so you can strictly pursue astronomy courses. But if you're not able to pursue an astronomy degree, you can like basically take physics and then basically study astronomy part time somewhere else from online. You can pursue astronomy courses. But undergrad, it usually doesn't matter. Like as I said, you can get into astrophysics like from wherever, like from whichever field you want, you can get into astrophysics. So but if you are like very particular, you can just take either computer science, IT, or you can take ECE. If you want to go into more like ISRO satellite building, you can take ECE. If you want to take pure astrophysics, so maybe physics and maths. So yeah. And
Absolutely.
statistics,
Okay.
I would say statistics is a really good way to get into astrophysics as well.
Absolutely. So, someone has asked, has your gender ever affected your career growth or any point in your career?
Gender, it definitely like plays a role. As a I think as a woman, being a woman in academia definitely plays a role in how people perceive you and how you grow. But as I said, you should keep making support systems that will help you, and you should not let someone, like whatever someone says and whatever comments you face, you should not let them stop you. That's the thing. So but there will be like it goes both ways. There are always people who want to like stop you and who want to like who make gender an issue, but there will always be other people who are willing to help you, who are like willing to help you grow as a person, as a scientist. So you should like find such people and form a support system with them.
Absolutely. Okay. cosmic query. Tarun has asked a cosmic query. Is there any upcoming comet body we can see in the future, like Comet Neowise last month?
So I am very bad at keeping track with the ongoing cosmic events. So I am sorry that I am not a good person to answer that question.
All right, no problem at all. Okay, so I think that was the last question. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am. It was an absolute pleasure hosting you on our forum, and you answered all the questions that our participants had. Okay, Gauri has written. Oh, she's written. Thank you. All right, perfect. So now the thank yous are going to roll in. So thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you, Himanshi, again for inviting me. This was definitely a unique opportunity. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks a lot for all the people that, yes, ma'am, you too. And thanks a lot for all the people that joined us. And we hope to engage much more people in these kind of subjects.
I think it's pretty amazing what you're doing. So I want to congratulate again for
Thank you so much, ma'am.
all the best.
Thank you.